This is the Triangle's Afternoon News with Rick and Donna Martinez.
We have in studio Andrew Cobin of Brady Cobin Law Group, and the reason he is here is because of one of your commercials. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And I'm going to paraphrase your commercial because it's a lot better than what I'm going to say here right now. But it's like, hey, folks, you may want to take a look at your will because, you thought you had it all nice, but you know what? That guy that your daughter married, he's actually a loser, and maybe you don't want to have most of your estate going to that, clown. So, but specifically, do people really get as to how often they should review their will, their trusts, and their estate?
Do they get it? I think a lot of people maybe know in the back of their head, but it's one of those things that's easy to put on the back shelf.
And you shouldn't put it in the back shelf because things change.
Well, things change, and if you're not keeping things up to date in your estate plan, then when it's called upon, it's not going to reflect what your wishes really are at that time.
Yeah, I think that's maybe really the important thing is that, this is your deal, but you may not be aware of the laws when it comes to divorce and some other things. Am I get that right?
Well, I think it's easy to work with someone and just get basics in place. And basics is better than having nothing. Mm-hmm. But if you really want it to reflect what your wishes are, a lot of times when we're meeting with clients, we're educating them about the issues they should be concerned about.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of these aha moments. And one of those things, a big aha moment for a lot of clients is that, hey, there is a way you can leave things to your kids, still allow them to have control over it, but protect it from things like a divorcing spouse or bankruptcy or any number of things.
I think the other thing that comes up when people start thinking about serious stuff like this is the uncomfortable questions that you have to kind of face, and particularly if you're a married couple, to talk about, okay, who do we really want to leave any assets to if hopefully we end up having assets and stuff like that? Do you talk through with clients about, look, I know this is kind of stuff maybe you don't want to talk about a whole lot, but you have to?
It's certainly important to be able to have a frank conversation. We do this every day, so for us it's natural, but you see it kind of across the board. Some people are just very uncomfortable at first. Other people approach it with a great deal of humor. But yeah, you need to have a frank discussion. It's a serious thing. It's serious business. So if you can't be honest about it, then it's not going to work the way you want it to.
Give us a sense of just a couple of things that you consider to be the basics, but for the rest of us who maybe don't think about this a whole lot, or I know we've got some folks who maybe haven't ever produced a will, ever created one, or thinking maybe this is a time to update. What should they think about?
Great question, Donna. I think this is the way I approach things. You want to do planning in consideration of three phases in life. So first is while you're alive and well. So whatever we're doing in this planning business shouldn't impact the way you control your assets today, but you may intentionally do so, right? We may give up some control if we're interested in long-term care planning, things of that nature. The second aspect is having a plan for disability. And this is a huge one. Most people call and they say, I need a will, but the truth of the matter is once you reach the age of 65, there's a greater likelihood than not that you'll experience some form of disability during your lifetime. So we need to have a plan in place that allows people to carry on the way you would have done it. And then obviously the last one is what most people think about is transferring the assets to the heirs. And I think there's a lot of ways you can do that to make it efficient, to make it timely, and to make it advantaged for the heirs. And one of the examples that we've already discussed is making it advantage in terms of protecting things from divorce.
One of the things that at least I had an experience with is the disability. For my mother, making sure that there were provisions, and this was in a trust, or a living will, and so that in essence, if God forbid, that she is not capable of making decisions on her own, let's say she has a stroke, or something like that, that I would have the ability to spend her assets for her care. And if you don't take care of that, you're kind of up the creek. Do I get that right?
That's right. The way I like to think about it is everyone has an estate plan, whether they like it or not. And if you don't have a good plan in place, you are relying on things like guardianship in that situation to give someone authority to manage your assets. And that's that's awful. I mean, that is something that could easily be avoided, save a lot of money, save a lot of heartache, and it's a shame sometimes when people don't take some very simple steps to avoid that.
Now, we've been talking about wills and things, but really planning for big occurrences in your life and what you want the future to look like for the people that you love involves a little bit more than a will. Tell us about some of the other things.
Yeah,
I mean, we're hearing now as we start to age, like healthcare power of attorney and trusts and trying to
Living
make sure
wills.
that, kids have money for education, et cetera. So other things other than just if I die, I want anything I have to go to my husband.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I mean, so everyone's unique in this sense, right? For some people, it is, I'm very concerned about long-term care. I'm very concerned about finding a way to pay for that. We're self-funding this, and I don't think there's going to be enough money to last, right? So there's planning you can do today to make that easier, to make your assets less available for being spent down for that long-term care. In terms of leaving things to the kids, I'll give you a good example. And this is something that was personal to me, right? Parents die in a car accident, and all of a sudden a family goes from a family of 4 to a family of 7 overnight because they now take on these 3 kids. Well, there may have been money for that, but you've got some other considerations. So now the household, which was really a 3-bedroom household, wasn't sufficient to basically have in place for 5 kids now, right? So what type of planning do we have in place for that, right? And we have to be very specific, because if the money's for the kids, well, how can that money be used to pay for upgrades to the house? And if we are going to upgrade the house, what's the manner? What is it going to be for the kids after that? So these are just some of the things that you need to consider. And obviously that's not the case for everyone. Not everyone has minor children, but a lot of people do.
But
right?
I'm glad you pointed out, though, the scenario that you did, because my point is, when Donna and I first did our will, maybe 20 years ago, I thought, well, what's the big deal? We don't have that much, and this can't be that complicated. But then when you start asking yourself these questions, well, okay, who's going to get the dog? And who's going to pay for the dog? Because the dog has this condition.
And end of life questions.
And end of
really,
life
how
questions.
How do you want to be handled, and who should make those decisions? And it's not as simple.
It's not
so
that
I would
simple,
take
yeah.
you must talk through this with people who come to you for help.
You have to talk through it. You need more than just the legal instrument, right? The legal
point,
instrument will
yeah.
give the authority, but you need to have instructions. You need to have a conversation about end-of-life decisions. If you're giving someone that duty, that obligation to make the decision about when to withdraw treatment, you owe it to that person to have a discussion at the very minimum
Right.
about what's the criteria when you're going to be exercising that authority.
Yeah.
So, Andrew, how are you guys operating during COVID-19?
Well, we are primarily meeting people via video conference. It's just kind of the new normal. That's been my experience, that it was a little bit odd at first, but I think by and large people are used to that at this point. Some clients still insist on coming in and seeing us. I try to talk them out of it, but we will do that. We will accommodate seeing people in person. In my mind, though, you should be able to accomplish everything over video, up to and including signing the document. So there have been laws put in place that allow people to video witness, video notarize at this point, which is a really great thing the legislature did. Absent that, we allow, or we've set it up so that we take one day out of the week. People drive up to the curbside. We have witnesses and a notary standing outside. We just hand them the signature pages. They hand it back to us, and
So you've got this figured out.
we've got a drive-through service.
I mean,
Yeah.
it sounds like a Las Vegas marriage to me. And you watch
Yes.
so these guys go to Vegas, and now you've adopted it as a business practice.
Rick, I think you're saying we're in good company.
Okay, so how do folks find out if they're listening, they want to make an appointment, they've got some things they want to think about? How do they contact you?
Oh, great. You go to our website. There's lots of ways to find us or contact with us through the website. So we are at ncestateplanning.com. You could also give us a call, 919-782-3500. Tina, one of our great team members, she does a really good job at allaying concerns and getting people situated to come in. And
And she's probably listening to the radio right now, so you can check that box.
that's right.
Okay. Thank you for all your hard work,
Yeah.
Tina.
Couldn't have done it without you. The backbone of the organization.
It's so true. It's so true. Yeah.
Well, it's important stuff, and that's why we really wanted to chat with Andrew Cobin today, because you've got to think about it,
do it,
folks.
folks.
And if you don't have a will or need to talk through some long-term care issues, etc., it's a great place to do it. And think about updating your will, too. You can't just leave it static for year after year after year, because your life changes. Andrew Cobin is with Brady Cobin Law Firm. Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks, Donna. Thanks, Rick. Big
Appreciate
fans.
it.
You guys are great. Thank you.
Thank you very
Appreciate it.
much. It was great to see you.